Top of the fifth inning here at the Orchard, and we're so thankful to be joined by the West Coast League's Commissioner Rob Neyer here in the booth with us. Rob, just welcome to the Orchard. It's been a great night so far.
It's been great baseball, beautiful night. I treasure all of my experiences here in the ballpark in Yakima. It's just a great place to visit.
It is still Getzinger out there to face the 5, 6, and 7 batters for Northwest Star. And I noticed while you were down there talking with Pippins general manager Jeff Garrettson, as it's actually Branson Rozier out there for this fifth inning, you have your scorecard. Is that something you've been doing ever since you got into baseball? And where did you get started in baseball?
Well, the first question is easy. The second one, I could spend way more than a half an inning talking about it. But as far as the scoring, I never really scored as a kid for whatever reason. But when I was in my early 20s, I started scoring for this organization called Project Scoresheet. This is going to sound, this will not sound very revolutionary now, but at the time it was. The idea was to
foul ball back.
The idea was for regular people, just baseball fans, to create a record, a detailed record of every single game, so that we all, and when I say we, I mean just fans, would have access to all of the same statistics that baseball professionals had. Bill James spearheaded that effort, and so I started scoring games for this group called Project Scoresheet, and that was, gosh, that would have been 35 years ago, roughly.
Wow. And this is the 20th season of the West Coast League. Can you believe that this group that was started by just 4 pioneers is still around today and providing some really good opportunities for these young ball players after a 1-2 pitch from Rozier? That will be a fly ball out towards right field. Porter, ranging back into the shadows, makes the grab for out number 1.
Well, you know, the only context I have is really for the last 7 years. That's how long I've been the commissioner. And obviously the league had existed for 13 years before that. And before I arrived, and I'm not taking credit for this, before I arrived there was a fair amount of flux in the league. If you go back and look at the history of the league on Wikipedia, that's one place you can read about it. Swing and a miss. We have teams in Medford and Klamath Falls and Moses Lake, various places, and
that's one's fouls back by McConaughey Geeson. It's 0-2.
And when I started, we had 11 teams. And it really, what's been amazing, because I wasn't here for the previous 13 years, is the growth that we've seen just in the last 7 years. Now we have 17 teams, as you know.
0-2 pitch from Rozier, misses away.
And 17 healthy teams. We haven't had anybody go out of business or move in those 7 years. And that's sort of a testament to the leadership, not mine, the leadership of the board of directors, the people on the executive committee who are also on the board. But I mean, it's just, I've played a small role, but there's just been strong leadership, and that's led to a great deal of stability and 17 successful teams, which is what we all want.
Geeson even in the count with Rozier. It's 2-2 here with 1 out in the top of the fifth inning. That's a swing and a miss for strikeout for Rozier. You talked about the growth of the league. The Marion Berries, a new team this year, and of course the Portland Pickles have become an internet sensation. Just talk about the strength that this, and I guess the presence that this league has among other summer leagues.
Well, one of the many things we have going for us is that unlike almost every other summer league, we are blessed with some huge markets, which, you know, it creates fan interest and visibility. And the more people you have coming to your games, the more you can invest in social media and staffing and all those fun things, your video product. And you guys do a great job here, by the way. But having teams in having teams in Victoria, which we have for quite a while, and Portland, which is only relatively new, 7 years now, and now recently Edmonton. These are big markets with a lot of fans coming to the ball games, and that that just creates opportunities for everybody. It creates opportunities for players to be seen, for broadcasters to be heard, for commissioners to visit amazing cities. So it's just that's been a really fun part of the league, is seeing the growth in those big markets that, these are big enough markets for major league teams or AAA minor league teams. But instead, we have the West Coast League.
It's 3 balls, no strikes to Maury Solom. As that one's in there, Solom will have to stay put. And you talk about the advancements of the league. It was just announced before the season started, that partnership with Max BP Fast Training. This is a league that's trying to develop their players to find new homes or to just move up the baseball ladder. Just talk about those connections now as we get closer and closer to the major league standard. Fly ball on the infield. Hopefully you can stick around for a half inning. I'd love to hear it. The catch is made by Buckley. Stick around. We've got more with Commissioner Rob Neyer here from the Orchard. Just past halfway home here at the Orchard as the Pippins lead 6-4. It's Max Sinisak standing in as he takes one high and in. We're still here with West Coast League Commissioner Rob Neyer, and I was just talking about, as we were going to break, the Max BP partnership that the West Coast League just entered in, trying to meet those standards that major league players train on.
Well, what I would encourage everyone when they come to the ballpark here, if they're in the area, or if you're not, come to Yakima. Great place to see a ball game. Beautiful summer nights. There is a poster on the outside of the stadium that lists the mission statement for this league, and among those attributes, the things we all strive for, is player development. Every one of our teams, everyone who owns a team in our league, they have a commitment to developing young ball players. It really is one of the things we talk about every week in our meetings. Every winter and fall in our league meetings, we talk about how do we get better? How do we take better care of our players? How do we keep our players safe? How do we train our players? So Max BP is the latest manifestation of that effort. We also, as you know, every stadium has TrackMan. We were the first collegiate summer league, I believe, first or second in the country to have TrackMan in every one of our stadiums. We have something called Synergy, which is video data. Everybody has it.
Line drive down the left field line for Buckley. This is just foul down that short left field line.
We have a tool, every one of our teams has a tool called 643 Charts, which is an amazing training tool. Lets you create these tremendous graphics and tendencies charts for any pitcher, any hitter. Coaching staffs love them. They're great scouting tools. And we're constantly every chance we get, we add another way for players to play better, for coaches to coach better.
That one's inside. Yeah, you mentioned the coaches. This is not just a developmental league for the players. It's just as much for the coaches and all the staffs that are wanting to work in baseball, and the umpires.
Yep, and the broadcasters. It's a big part of what we do. Yes, everyone wants to sell tickets and maybe not lose money at the end of the season, but we are a developmental league, and that covers everybody that you see in the ballpark, basically.
Sinisak is going to get thrown out on a strong throw by Holt Williams. Buckley was swinging to protect. It's now 1-2. Yeah, I think that's been the biggest message that I've seen since coming out here from Nebraska. You and I were talking in between innings, just how much more, I guess, advanced some of the facilities and all the technology is here in the West Coast League.
Right. I don't know. I mean, the Cape Cod League, most people are probably familiar with. That is the number one in terms of young talent. That's where the top prospects tend to go at the end of their college careers. That's where the scouts are. So that's where they go. And they're subsidized by Major League Baseball, so they get all these wonderful tools as well. And in fact, MLB now runs a couple of collegiate summer leagues themselves, the Appy League and the Draft League.
2-2, staying alive, Buckley.
So MLB they take pretty good care of those leagues because they run them. But once you get past those three, you're not going to find a league in the country that has the training tools and the technology that we have.
It's 2-2 to Ethan Buckley, the man from Cape Town, South Africa. Recently played with Gonzaga.
In fact, I'm friendly with
outside 3-2.
Friendly with the commissioners of a few other summer collegiate leagues, and I've been sort of sheepish because they'll ask me, wait, how do we get TrackMan? It's like, I don't know. I don't know how we got it, but we did 6 years ago, and we feel very fortunate to have had it as long as we've had it.
Payoff is on the ground, just fell. Solom thought he had a chance. Yeah, it's been quite the first couple of weeks. Portland just recently lost their first game, but it's been kind of a historic start to the season. You've got a lot of teams close in the North Division. The South is being run by Portland, but everybody else after that is still kind of close. Just talk about the first week here in the West Coast League.
Well, obviously, you never think anyone's going to start the season 11-0, and as well as the Pickles played last season, winning the championship.
Payoff pitch. That's downstairs. Buckley draws a walk.
It wasn't realistic to think that they would then jump out to an 11-0 start, especially because, as longtime fans of the WCL are well aware of, it's been the Corvallis Knights division and league forever until last fall, when the Pickles knocked them off in the South Championship game. And the Pickles, they're better now than they were last year, which didn't really seem possible. But here they are. I think obviously they're going to come back to the pack a little bit, and we always just expect the Knights to get back up there eventually. But no, I think one of the delightful things about our current playoff format is that 8 teams are going to make it, and we also have first and second half standing. So yeah, the Pickles might run away with this thing or not. We don't know. They could slump, but everything when the schedule turns over in early July, or I guess it's late June, early July, everybody's 0-0 again, essentially.
We have a pitching change here by Northwest Star. We're going to stay here and chat with Commissioner Neyer. You have a background with ESPN, Fox Sports as a journalist. How has that experience helped you in this new role?
Barely. I would say that there are probably people over the years who have known my background and attributed some level of authority or credibility to me that I didn't deserve. Because being a blogger, which is basically what I was, and I wrote a bunch of books too, but being a writer holed up in his apartment and then a house for 20-odd years doesn't really prepare you to be the commissioner of a baseball league. It just doesn't. Now, I would say that I've also been sort of an amateur historian for a long time. Most of my books are more historical than not. There have been occasions when I could say to somebody, well, back in 1956 when this happened in this league, here's how they handled it. So that's occasionally useful to know a little bit about the history of the game and the history of the people who have done my job, whether it was in Major League Baseball or in a minor league. But for the most part, I have been learning for 7 years, and still every day I learn something new about how to do this job, because there's no other job like it. So there's no way to train for it, at least not that I know about.
The new pitcher for Northwest Star is Zach DeNubilo. Pitched last night, and he faces Preston Allen, who is his first batter. This is a league that's constantly evolving, and the new team, Marion, is finally in. What's next for the West Coast League?
It's a good question. I mean, being strike called, being as honest as I can be about this, we have some uncertainty right now. I'm not sure if you read a story in the spring. It was in the news that the Cowlitz Black Bears are not going to be playing in their current stadium next season.
This one's on the ground through the right side. Preston Allen gets a single off the new arm DeNubilo. 2 on and 1 out.
So there's a little uncertainty there. I think that the Black Bears will land somewhere. I don't know where or when, but they've been around for a long, long time, and they have great ownership, so I expect them to survive and thrive. I just don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We have 17 teams. You probably are smart enough to know that 17 is not a great number for a baseball league. Odd numbers are tough. You always want even numbers.
First pitch in there to the top of the order, Langan Naylor.
Just as an example, if you have an odd number of teams, that means the first weekend of the season, somebody's not playing, at least not a league game, which is not fun for them, right? So I think
This one's on the ground, over to second. Castleberry on to second for one. Naylor runs well. This will be safe at first. Two outs.
I think it's obvious to anybody who follows baseball that we would love to have an even number of teams. So certainly 18 would be a better number than 17. And I think and if you look at the history of our league over the last 7 years, going from 11 to 17, one thing I've learned in this role is that there's a tremendous thirst for this level of baseball. It's the perfect calendar for the Northwest. Start in early June or late May, because that's when you have the good weather, and that's when fans want to come to the ballpark. And there are still a few markets out there that would be great homes for West Coast League baseball. Not a lot. 17 teams, we filled most of them, but there's still a few. You look around, and Olympia would be a great place for a baseball team.
Runner goes. This is a swipe of second.
Southeast British Columbia. Vancouver has a Northwest League team. The Canadians, they've been there forever. But Vancouver's a massive metropolis, and there are huge suburbs. That area could easily support another team, whether it's a West Coast League team or some other league. I don't know. But
swing and a miss. That is out number 3.
But you just look around at a map, and it's clear that there are still, 2 or 3 or 4 places, not even counting Alberta, and of course we have a team in Edmonton, that could support this level of baseball and support it well. And I think that ultimately we're going to fill all those spots.
Commissioner Neyer, thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you up in the booth.
It's been great to be here. Thanks, Harmon.
Thanks for joining us. It is 6-4 after 5 here at the Orchard.